Jose Alonso's been at the airport since the beginning of this. We want to go back to him live. Jose, you've heard that the airport is now closed, incoming flights. They do have one runway open, but it's not being used tonight.
Doug, yeah, so we moved inside. We haven't seen any activity. We haven't been out there for a minute yet, but we're not the only ones that have been here for hours. We were actually speaking with individuals who were on the tarmac and saw that large plume of smoke from the very beginning, and then had to get off of their airplane, pick up their bag at baggage claim, and now waiting for car rides to wherever they need to go. But I want to show you this here. We're looking at the board, specifically this departure board. You can see several flights have been canceled, and several of them have been rescheduled for tomorrow morning. This one for Charlotte at American Airlines as early as 7 a.m. And we did speak to some other individuals who did say they had their flight rescheduled and that it was around 7 a.m. So I asked them if they were hopeful that they would be able to fly out tomorrow. They said they are hopeful, but they're also very understanding if that doesn't happen. But take a look over here. I'm going to have photojournalist Aspen Hester show you just how empty it is here at baggage claim in itself. There's no bags around here. There's still some individuals here for different reasons. That lovely lady right there, I got to talk to her as well, and she says she's waiting on her bag, which is unfortunately sitting outside, and because of the shelter-in-place situation, they can't grab it for her yet. And she's a Louisvillian herself, so she's just really waiting for that bag in order for her to get to her car and then head home. But again, it's still just very quiet in here, the quietest I've ever seen, as I've been to SDF several times to fly to see my own family as well. So I can understand where they're coming from, but again, at the top of everyone's mind and in their hearts is for those individuals that were impacted by this crash. Doug, Connie? Again, tell me about, what are y'all doing here? What's happening?
Well, I think it's by faith that we two sat together on the plane.
On the Southwest flight.
Yeah, to here. We were just going to touch down and leave, and then all of a sudden they said we had to exit the plane, but we could keep our stuff on the plane, but just take what we wanted. And we got off. We started walking off the plane. We put something to save our seats, and as soon as we exited, I just heard some lady off to the side saying that there was an explosion, and then everybody was looking off to the left, and it was just a cloud of black smoke.
It looked like kind of a tornado because the sun was behind it, so it was light. It wasn't as dark as it ended up being later on. It looked like dirt.
Yeah, and then, but it just kept on going, and then it just took over the whole sky. I mean, because you were just looking, and when you looked up, it was just like, all of a sudden, it was just black everywhere.
We saw it all the way from downtown. It was crazy looking and everything, When you got off the plane and started getting those news alerts, or started being informed that it was a UPS cargo jet that ended up exploding down there.
We did not find that out until we were at the bar for a while. So when we were off the plane, they instructed us, hey, leave your stuff on the plane, because we were just picking up a couple of passengers to go to Phoenix. They were like, hey, take your time because the flight's delayed leaving. Go use the restroom, grab a bite to eat. So we're sitting there, and then we got an alert on our phone saying to take shelter. And a couple of people, when we landed, said some of the debris had hit the window outside of our gate. I didn't see that. I also was oblivious to all of this.
Yeah.
So we got about 3 alerts saying to take shelter.
Apologies, I forgot that we did speak to those individuals. It was much colder out there, much warmer in here, so we're feeling a little sleepy in here, but so is everybody. I can see they're just feeling a certain way out here. But those ladies specifically were telling me they were from Virginia, one from Virginia, one from Nashville. They were going to get a connecting flight out of here. It's one of those flights where they land, stay in the plane, and then go where they need to go next. But those ladies were telling me that, you heard right there, they got off the plane, were told to get some food, some drinks, and just hang out for a little bit. That's when they found out about the UPS cargo jet crash and that their flight was canceled. Thankfully, we did see them off. They went to their hotel safely in a hotel shuttle and are expecting to stay here for the night. They've never been to Louisville, but this will be their first night in Louisville, and they hope that they're able to fly out tomorrow as well. Again, there's a lot of individuals here that are very optimistic for these early flight times. Like I said, as early as 7 a.m., seeing some at 7:30, at 9:43 as well, all the way up until noon around 12:10 as well. So there's a lot of quietness happening right now here at the airport as it is, again, shut down. Doug, Connie.
The folks you talked to, those two women and then another passenger who was trying to get to Florida, for them, the reactions were a little bit surreal when they talked about how the smoke looked like dirt and how the other passenger who was on the tarmac when the crash happened, talking about how she wasn't sure what was going on, the pilot wasn't sure what was going on, just kind of a stunning effect and not really sure, how to react, I guess.
Exactly. There is a lot of mixed reactions, more of just of concern of what exactly is going on, and seeing that plume of smoke from them for themselves right as they're on the tarmac, right outside of the airplane windows as well. And the other lady I spoke to, there's another one that we're going to hear from later, of course. She told me that when she was in the airplane and they started seeing the smoke, that she heard an audible gasp happen and take place within the airplane. So just a lot of concern, but again, no one's mad about their flights being canceled, delayed, or anything like that. Everyone is just more so worried about the individuals that were involved in this crash. Connie, Doug.
Thank you so much. And we want to give an update to some information that we got from U of L. They said they are not going to be closed tomorrow.
Right.
JCPS is going to be closed tomorrow. U of L calling, telling us they will be open tomorrow.
It will be open tomorrow. So there we have it. We wanted to clear that up as some of the information has been coming in throughout the evening here.
Also, I have another update, if it's okay. TARC saying effective immediately due to the shelter in place issued, all TARC service has been suspended for the remainder of the evening, obviously, and TARC 3 is working with current passengers with destinations outside the shelter in place to get them to their destinations. All pickups for later this evening have been suspended.
So here's the latest information as we had. Jefferson County Public Schools definitely closed tomorrow. Right. They're going to be doing air monitoring, water monitoring around the schools to make sure everything is safe before they would reopen. U of L contacting us to say that they are open tomorrow on campus. They are not closed Wednesday. So we want to make that we want to make that clear. We have a news conference coming up in about an hour from now from Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg.
Well, Ian Hardwick was covering Governor Beshear. We heard that press conference, and again, as you're seeing here on the screen, the death toll, unfortunately, has been updated from 3 to 4, 2 in critical that we see there, and 11 folks injured. Again, the governor said there may be more. Yeah,
the governor's fearful that they may be more on that, and we heard from him at the 7:30 news conference. Let's go to our Ian Hardwick with more on what the governor had to say earlier tonight as he came to Louisville from Frankfurt. Ian?
Yeah, Doug, the governor said that as far as the flight goes, there were no hazardous materials that were actually aboard that flight. Now, we know that the shelter-in-place radius has shrunk from about 5 miles down to 1 mile more immediately near the airport. The most shocking thing that he said was, yes, that we might expect the numbers of the people who are dead or injured in this crash to go up. He was right. We did receive that update from the airport authority, going from 3 to 4 people dead. As far as the 11 people injured, we know 10 of them ended up in U of L health hospitals. We received the update on some of their conditions. 2 people in critical condition, like you said. Specifically, it was mentioned that those patients are in the burn unit over at the emergency room at University of Louisville Hospital. There are 6 more who are expected to survive that are scattered throughout hospitals throughout the city. I know Mary and Elizabeth Hospital is one of them. U of L South Hospital is one of them. That leaves 2 people in U of L Health's condition where we don't know exactly how they're doing in the hospital. hospital. U of L Health told us not to expect any more updates on their condition tonight. That leaves a lot of questions for some of the people who may have loved ones impacted by this crash. Here's what the governor had to say for them earlier tonight.
But if this is a family you know, please give them your support. Please give them your prayers. Please give them your love and be with them, because the toughest moments, and I can say it from personal experience, are when you're wondering whether that person that you know and you care about has survived something like this. We do not, at the moment, have the status of the crew. Watching that video, I think we're all very, very worried about them.
Governor Randy Beshear mentioning the crew there on UPS Flight 2976. He also mentioned that there were 2 businesses that were affected by that plane crash. It could be the jet fuel spilling out from it, catching them on fire. That would be Grade A Auto Parts and Kentucky Petroleum and Recycling that were affected by that. And again, that shelter in place order that was put in not because of anything that was on the actual aircraft, but because of what might have been burning after that crash, and that is still in effect within 1 mile of the airport as of now. Doug, Connie.
All right, Ian Hardwick reporting for us tonight. Ian, thank you so much for that update. And also at that press conference, Doug, that was at the airport, our Conroy Deluche was listening to all that and talking to officials after.
And we want to join Conroy now with more, bringing back some of that news conference that we heard just a minute ago, which brought out a lot of new information. Conroy?
Yeah, we had listened to the governor's briefing just about 7 o'clock and learned that 3 people had died. Well, then we got to the airport, had a briefing at 9 o'clock. The mayor was scheduled to be here. He's coming in from out of town. That's why we haven't heard from him yet. He's been on the road. He did call in earlier when he was en route back to Louisville, and we did hear that he's coming back at 10 o'clock. But earlier tonight, they went ahead and had a briefing, and we learned a grim update from Officer Biven with the Louisville airport.
I can confirm a total number of 4 fatalities and 11 injured that were transported to local hospitals at this time. These numbers can increase as the investigation continues with partnerships of local, state, and federal investigators.
So again, that soundbite coming from Officer Biven with Louisville Airport, updating officially now with 4, the death toll rising to 4 and 11 injured. And as he said, that number could increase, which was also something the governor said earlier tonight. Now, we are still standing by here at the Louisville Regional Airport Authority's administrative building, and we're expecting the mayor to appear around 10, possibly as late as 10:30. But right now, he's scheduled to arrive at 10 o'clock, where we expect to learn more information. Certainly, a lot of things have developed since the initial crash call came in just before 5:20 earlier this evening, when you could see black smoke. I mean, we were driving in from old Louisville, and we could see it as soon as we hit about Oak Street, heading toward U of L's campus, where it got thicker and thicker and thicker, where we set up shop right near U of L Stadium, L&N Stadium, right there on Central Avenue, and could just see it for miles stretching north toward downtown. And while it has dissipated, and the radius, as Jody Myman with Emergency Management talked about, that the radius of the air quality that they were concerned about has shrunk down to 1 mile, and that's the radius that's also going to be getting lens alerts. So if you've been outside that 1 mile radius and wondering why you haven't got an alert, that's why they're saving it for that 1 mile radius. But if something changes and your phone is hooked up to the lens alert, you could be getting something later on tonight. But for now, we're going to send it back to you guys in the studio. Once again, standing by for the mayor to appear at 10 o'clock, and we'll certainly break in with that when he does arrive.
Conroy, I was curious. You were at the news conference. You were able to see them when they came in and maybe talk to them off to the side. I mean, did you get any sense of the enormity of this tragedy for our airport, which has an overall pretty pristine safety record?
Yeah, certainly they're shaken by what happened. This is, UPS flies jets every single day. This is not something that you would ever expect. And with the amount of traffic that this airport does, happen, for this to happen, it certainly is something that's really eye-opening and jarring, especially just 3 miles south of the airport. That's what they said from takeoff is about 3 miles where it crashed. And certainly they're thinking of those businesses that were affected and the 4 dead. There were 3 on board the plane, but we're not sure what the status of the crew is. So obviously, as you guys have been talking about all night, this is a UPS town. This is also like a small business town, very proud. And these were businesses that are affected too, and neighbors and just countless people. You can imagine the impact stretches for miles and miles and miles. I mean, this news is making international headlines. Like this is, but for us, it's a much smaller, big impact that I know, Doug and Connie, you guys have been talking about all night.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a terrible tragedy. Thank you so much for that report, Conroy, and we'll come back to Conroy when the mayor does arrive. Again, he was out of town, he called in, talked to us earlier about it, trying to make sure that we had like all the emergency services folks that could be out here, and certainly the governor helping with that as well.
And really was the first person to be able to confirm to us that this jet was taking off.
Right.